are 6 reasons why I think it's a red flag to admire the Roman Empire. Hey y'all, my name is Jessica Jordan, also known as The Rolling Explorer. I make content about my life as a disabled woman, and today I'm gonna spill the accessibility tea on the harsh conditions that disabled people faced during the Roman Empire. So I'm sure by now we've all seen the trend, right? Women go around and ask their partners how often they think about the Roman Empire. And generally, their answers are varying from once a week to once an hour. And yes, of course, this is meant to be funny, lightweight, easy to consume content. And for the most part, it is. I've laughed several times at some of these videos. But in every piece of satire, there's a little bit of truth. And I think this could open up a much larger conversation on gender and masculinity. Because obviously, Hollywood has done some influencing. The movie Gladiator from the year 2000 comes to mind. It features the beautiful Russell Crowe and Joaquin Phoenix. And it truly has everything that is idolized by hypermasculinity. Fighting and fortune and fame and muscles. It's all there. But the reality of the Roman Empire is much darker. Now, I know my history. I know that the Roman Empire has left us many things to be thankful for, including the invention of cement and roads, aqueducts and sanitation measures, and even the postal service. But for everything that the Roman Empire got right in its 1,000-year run, it also got a tremendous amount of things very, very wrong, especially with regard to its disabled citizens, who probably made up a large portion of its population. According to a paper written by BBC journalist and Cambridge graduate Victoria Brignall titled Disability in Roman Culture, it can be assumed that anywhere from 40 to 80% of the Roman population was probably disabled due to a variety of reasons, from malnutrition, warfare, inbreeding, disease, and so much more. And just so you have some comparison, it's estimated that about 15 to 20% of the US population is disabled today. Now, if this many people were affected, you would assume that the Roman society would treat disabled people somewhat nicely. Wrong, not nicely at all. So without further ado, let's dive into the main point of this video, where I list out the 6 reasons why the Roman Empire maybe wasn't so great after all. Number 1, their language. It has been documented that they use the word monstrum, which translates to monster, to describe disabled people. This word is derived from the verb monere. Sorry if I'm butchering the Latin, by the way, I never studied it, which means to warn in English. In other words, these terms were used because when a disabled person was born into a family, it was seen as an omen or a warning for bad things to come, and/or it was seen as a divine punishment from the gods, creating a deep fear about becoming disabled, being disabled, or being near disabled people throughout society. A fear we still see to this day. Number 2, when these disabled children were born, because disability is a natural part of humanity, they were often left for dead. You see, the Romans believed that because these individuals were not going to be able to put in a whole lot of effort and work, so they'd be unproductive and basically be a drain on their families and society at large, they had no worth and therefore had no reason to exist. Might as well just put everyone out of their misery, leave them to the elements to die. Ah, capitalism, our long, tireless friend, how unpleasant it is to see you here. Now, we may not let disabled people rot and die on the side of the road these days, but a lot of the foundations for this belief system is still seen in our society today. Number 3, freak shows were very popular in ancient Rome. So some disabled people, particularly those with visible and physical impairments, were able to make some money as entertainers. How can I relate this one to today? Simple. Fetishization of disabled people still very much exists. Number 4, there is no evidence to suggest that public funds were used to support disabled people. So in order to survive, most of these individuals had to resort to petty crime, begging, or charity from their more generous family members. To this day, disabled employees face discrimination every single day. Number 5, we're about to unpack something very dark. This is your trigger warning. Disabled slaves were very common in Roman times, thanks to extremely intense and harsh working conditions and some sadistic owners. Many slaves would become disabled during their lifetime. Now, if a slave became so disabled that they could not carry on doing their manual labor, they would sometimes be transferred to lighter duties. But more often than not, they were put to the death. Those that were kept were often the victims of regular sexual abuse and ordered to regularly satisfy their owners. Finally, number 6, acquiring a disabled slave was different than owning one that became disabled. It was almost viewed as a status symbol or a good luck charm. You see, Romans liked to collect, quote, freaks in a similar way to the way they would collect exotic animals. These acquisitions, while also used for labor and sexual acts, were also often used in humiliating forms of entertainment. One story that Victoria Brignall shared in her paper was that of Emperor Commodus. He was known for displaying 2 people with hunched backs on a silver platter at his dinner parties, covered in mustard. Listen, I'm all for people being interested in history, and even for them taking a particular affinity for a specific era. But we all need to make sure that through this curiosity, we are taking the time to understand cultures holistically and not just focusing in on the few things that make us feel good and empowered. Because oftentimes, it's not that simple. And while disability rights have definitely improved since the Roman Empire, there are still some echoes from the past haunting our present day in 2023. I mentioned some before, but here are a few more. It is still legal in some places within the United States to pay disabled employees less than minimum wage, which is already too low of a living wage anyway. I'm sure you can see the problem. And on top of that, due to the fears and beliefs about disabled people that clearly stem back to ancient times that still exist in our society today, we are 3 times more likely to be victims of violent crime, including SA. But that is some tea for another day. If you like this video, please let me know in the comments what you'd like to learn about next, and be sure to follow along for more. Until next time.